The beard is finally back in California, baby.
James Harden was traded to the Los Angeles Clippers in a blockbuster trade with the Philadelphia 76ers on Monday night, October 30.
Cali native, former MVP, and 10-time All-Star James Harden is finally out of Philly after a dragged-out and drama-filled trade request to send him to his third team in just as many years.
He said it again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
But enough with that drama, fam. So today we're gonna talk about the other team in LA, the Clips, and what Harden can bring to an already stud-filled roster.
Another scorer, leader. Really happy to have him here.
I guess excited. He's one of the best players to step on an NBA floor.
Strap your beards on for No Shave November and step back into a comfy chair. Let's get to it. So I want to talk about 2 points here. What the Clippers are and how, in my ever so humble opinion, they will fare after the trade, and what James Harden is in his 14th season in the NBA. Let's start with Harden himself and how he looks as a player. Let's get one thing straight to start off with. James Harden will add absolutely nothing to this Clippers team defensively. Luckily, they don't need it, but if he wants to be as effective as possible on the Clips, he'll have to try and play a little harder on that end of the floor. He's never been a good defender, and you can pull out as many stats as you want about how he isn't that bad, but if you've watched James Harden play defense, you'd know that a yield sign is probably his best comparison when you're talking about driving. Slow down and watch out, man, but you can still go, don't worry about it. It's pretty much how Harden guards on ball. In his last season and a half in Philly, the Sixers had to switch and scheme their backcourt defense around Harden's lack of movement and effort on the defensive end. His lack of motor skills is the most concerning in my eyes. However, putting him around high-energy guys like Tyrese Maxey and DeAnthony Melton and even PJ Tucker for a bit there showed that a defense that has a strong supporting cast can at least float. But good for Harden, he'll be sharing the court with maybe the highest high-energy guy of all time. Brody is the definition of energy. If Russell Westbrook was turned into a mascot, he'd be the Energizer Bunny. This, alongside the elite wing defense of Robot Man Kawhi Leonard and former MVP finalist alongside Harden, PG-13 will give Harden a lot of leeway there. However, the NBA is fuller with talent than ever before, especially at the guard position. It'll be hard to fully clog the leaks he leaves in the ship when a guy like Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, or any number of shifty 1-2 guards in the West get switched on to Harden on offense. I think Harden's fit defensively is by far the most interesting thing to look at in his personal performance there. Now, time to talk good about the beard and talk about his offensive production. James Harden gives out more buckets than Oprah gives out gifts to her audience. James Harden can get hotter than a nuclear reactor when his signature silky smooth step-back three is falling. James Harden can pass the ball as good as literally anybody in the NBA right now. Spare maybe, and I mean maybe, Tyrese Halliburton or Luka Doncic. Harden led the league in assists last year. Of course, those statistics are a bit inflated when you play with a 2-time scoring champion and MVP Joel Embiid. But he also is responsible for getting JoJo some of the easiest baskets he's ever seen in his life. It makes you wonder how much easier he can make life for Kawhi and PG, especially if it's a Zubats. Harden is going to have to adapt playing alongside 2 other primary scorers and a second primary ball handler. He's adapted to these before with the Nets. However, sometimes these quote-unquote super teams explode brighter than a supernova. Looking at you there, Brooklyn. I think that everyone is most excited to see what his role will be in LA. We've seen him play primary scorer on the Rockets where he was a flamethrower, capable of flipping 50 burgers on your head at any time. And we've seen him play primary playmaker in Philly where, as we said, him and Joel were a match made in heaven in pick and roll and pick and pop scenarios. The biggest question for Harden's overall game is, will he be healthy for the entire season, be in shape, and when the Clippers meet someone like the Suns or the Nuggets in the second round, will he show up? Much has been made about the playoff excursions of James Harden. The Clippers too will get there eventually, and discussing what really is and isn't his fault in the playoffs is a discussion for a whole other video. So we'll keep it simple today. James Harden is not terrible in the playoffs and is capable of having unbelievable performances. He practically won Game 5 for Philadelphia all by himself against a loaded Celtics defense just a few months ago. However, in Game 7, him and Joel Embiid might have stayed in the locker room. There's ups and downs, and not every Hall of Famer is a playoff gamer. It's also important to take note that the playoffs are a totally different beast. Harden's stats do drop come May, but so do the stats of pretty much every other player ever not named Luka, LeBron, or Michael. I think that the cloud that surrounds James Harden is more speculation, motivation, and attitude when it comes to the playoffs. Remember when this guy was in Houston and was a beloved MVP who was putting 32 points a game up on average? He was 1 game and 27 consecutive missed threes away from the finals while beating the KD and Steph-led Golden State Warriors. However, a lot more questions float around about James at this moment in time that aren't really basketball related. He's forced his way out 3 different teams in the last 3 years, and none of them have really gone down pretty. There's the notorious fat suit incident, the door-wide-open public beef with Sixers GM Daryl Morey, and various other random shots and interviews at former employees and co-workers. A lot of people are questioning his character, if he wants to win or if he wants to be somewhere with a beach, and these questions will need to be swiftly answered since the arrival of the beard puts the Clips in a higher sense of championship urgency since the days of Doc Rivers and Lob City. So where do the Clippers stand after this trade? What should our expectations be? The Clippers haven't made the conference finals with Kawhi. They did in 2021 when he was injured but were carried by an elite playoff performance from Playoff P himself. Well, for starters, this team is loaded with expectations due to their 4 stars, sleeping on the supporting cast that will benefit from the presence of 2 Hall of Fame wings and 2 Hall of Fame guards. Terrence Mann and Bones Highland now get to sit and learn from 2 guard sensei of scoring and playmaking. We saw the leap Tyrese Maxey took from playing with the beard last year, so expect a jump from these 2. Ivica Zubac is going to become a monster in efficiency. While his scoring numbers and stats in general are never mind-blowing, this guy can ball. He had a game of 31 points and 29 rebounds last season, for goodness sake. It's time we stop acting like the big man isn't elite at what he does. Guys like Normal Powell and the Harden psychic PJ Tucker are going to get wide open looks all over the floor from the downhill creation Harden forces on the defense. As a roster in theory, they should get better. However, there's a lot of ego going around and a lot of playoff disappearing acts have happened between the main 4 guys on this roster. Kawhi is a baller no matter what, we know this. The guy is a robot and I'm wholly convinced he isn't from this planet. But Russ gets put in a box in the postseason with schemes that force him into tough jumpers, and his athleticism isn't quite as earth-shattering as it was during his prime years in OKC. We talked about Harden's playoff wins and woes, and although PG has had a few good postseasons, the good outweighs the bad for him too. There's also the question of the health of this team. PG, Kawhi, and Harden missed a total of 78 games last year, and with the new load management rules, it'll be hard to prevent these guys from missing extended periods of time during the season. These guys all used to be Iron Men, but the years and years of wear and tear from the NBA has taken a toll on them. What we do know is that they're professionals, and when they're playing, they'll do their best to figure it out. So James Harden is back in California. The Clippers have a loaded roster on paper full of future Hall of Famers. Hall of Famers that are notoriously either really good or really bad in the playoffs in the public eye. 4 stars on one team rarely works because of the human condition of ego, and that issue will certainly cloud this team for a bit. Who gets the most shots? Who brings the ball up? How do you fit all of these players together to make a competent offense and defense if you're Tyronn Lue? The Clippers have a lot of questions, but they also have a lot of pieces, and they're hoping that the piece with the giant beard will be the final piece to the puzzle they've been looking to the answer since the franchise's creation in 1970.